I guess we should crack on with the film that we're here to talk about. I guess if we could begin by each of you introducing yourself and saying how you're involved with the film.
Jenna, start.
Hey, hi. My name is Jenna Dabalisco, and I play Clara in this film. I'll send it to Nick.
Hey, I'm Nick. I play the Watcher for Roger.
My name's Mike Andrusiewicz, and I play Roger in the movie.
And I'm Aaron Bartuska. I am the person to blame for the whole thing. The director, co-writer, colorist. I don't know. Anything that anyone else didn't want to do.
And I mean, we're here talking about For Roger because it's got a screening coming up at Grimfest in the UK in October. How are you guys all feeling about the screening?
I am excited. We did this about 2 summers ago now, or maybe 3 summers. I don't even remember at this point. And with the pandemic, production got delayed with just editing it all together and post. So it kind of stalled for a bit, and now we're in motion. And so I'm just excited to have this thing out there and have people see it after so many, delays. It's been great.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Jenna said, for Grimfest specifically, I've seen the lineup of films that we're premiering next to, and it's absolutely crazy that the directors of Grimfest are taking a chance on our movie and really giving our movie an opportunity to see the light of day after Jenna said for so long. So I think every single person involved in the movie and cast and crew are really psyched for it to be playing at Grimfest because it's a great opportunity, and we're just really excited to see it out there.
I think a lot of people kind of forgot that this movie was still coming out, and then Grimfest was kind of like, oh, what? This movie's gonna play somewhere? That's pretty cool. So yeah, right now we were set up at Grimfest in Philadelphia Unnamed is our actual world premiere, which is cool because that's like a home-based kind of screening, and then yeah, Grimfest is our UK premiere. So it's pretty cool. It's good. It's very validating and rewarding to finally be able to put it out there.
I guess, for those that haven't read up on the film yet, probably this is a question for you, Aaron. What is, no spoilers, what's the film about?
So For Roger is basically about our main character, Roger, goes to the family vacation cabin that he used to vacation with Clara, who has passed away upon the film beginning. That happened before the film starts, and you're gonna learn that I'm really bad at explaining this movie. And then basically he goes to the cabin just to hash things out and starts trying to reminisce, watch through their home videos that they recorded while they were there. And as he's watching through, he learns a couple things about the relationship that he might not have known at first, and also learns that there has been someone watching them from the woods over the years, because it wouldn't be a horror movie without a guy in a mask, Nick.
I mean, the next question would be, where did the idea come from? How did it arise?
Right. Well, I mean, so my girlfriend at the time had this cabin, this super creepy, in the middle of the woods cabin. We did very little set deck. If you've seen the movie, that's just how the cabin looks. And I was like, I need to film a horror movie here. I grew up on horror. It was my gateway into just loving film as a whole, and eventually majoring in it and all that. So I was like, eventually I got to return to my roots. This is an amazing location. Can I reverse engineer a film around this vacation and stay at your house for a couple months, please? And yeah, basically we took over the cabin. It's an actual hunting lodge, so some of the hunters that frequented there were not very happy about that, and some of them just kept hanging out with us, which was a fun welcome addition. But yeah, so basically saw the location. I was like, this is perfect for a horror movie. We got to film something here. And really wanted to make an old school horror movie. I love found footage. A lot of people don't like found footage. I wanted to do something interesting with it that felt like, I don't know, I feel like that subgenre gets way too much hate, and I feel like it can definitely I think it's on more of a comeuppance. I think people are starting to like it again. It's having kind of a resurgence. But I knew I wanted to do a mix of that with like classic, Halloween style horror, and then also a relationship drama that was half improvised. Just everything I wanted to do at that time, I kind of threw in there and hoped that it worked.
I mean, you mentioned found footage. I think one of the films that's on the Grimmfest bill is the documentary, The Found Footage Phenomenon, which does exactly what you were saying. It sort of celebrates the found footage genre and how it's it's not the ugly stepsister that it once was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. That one looks awesome.
I think I'm right in saying that there's a history between all of you outside of the film. So I guess maybe if we could discuss a little bit about how you all came to know one another.
Yeah,
I'll start
Mike.
this one.
Go ahead now. No, you go.
So Aaron and I met literally the first day of college. We went to Drexel in Philadelphia, and we dormed 4 doors down from one another. And I always thought Aaron was, at least at first, I thought Aaron was a very strange, a bit of an oddball. And next thing you know, 2 weeks later, we're best friends. And, I do not come from a movie background. I didn't really watch movies growing up, like not even that many. And he and I watched 117 movies together our freshman year, and inspired a love of movies in me that has continued to this day.
We went out too. We made friends also.
Yeah. We did. Secondary.
And then I met Nick, because Nick and Aaron were best friends, and Aaron, Mikey, and I all went to high school together. And I asked Aaron to come visit one day over my house when we were all home from college, and he said, "I'm with my friend Pap. Can I bring him?" And I said, "Sure." And so the 3 of us hung out, and that's kind of how we met and everything too. So it was a great way for us to all get introduced.
Pap is shorthand for Nick. We all call him Pap.
Oh, nice name. Yeah, Paparo.
Yeah, there was definitely an aspect of comfortability, if that's a word, on set, because every member of set knew each other from years prior. Like what Jenna mentioned, Jenna, Aaron, and I were all in the performing arts department of our high school. So we kind of made friends over those 4 years of high school, and then later into college, like I became friends with Nick because Aaron has this weird ability to bring his friends and his home friends. Like he just meshes every single group together, and apparently I'm really good friends with Nick now just through Aaron. He really brings people together in some weird way, and he
gotta ask people to make a movie and ask them to trust you.
yeah, and I think those strong relationships is what we were able to leverage into a solid movie. And I think if we didn't have that, and if we didn't have the chemistry beforehand, this movie wouldn't have been what it is now.
Yeah, definitely, and I guess it helps. You guys as actors, the fact that you do have that history with one another. You can sort of access, I guess, emotions and that you might not necessarily be able to do with a complete stranger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least for me and Jenna, or Jenna and I, we've played somewhat of a love interest in both one Aaron Bartuska short before, and then a high school production of It's a Wonderful Life. So I mean, it's not our first time acting on screen together. So that really helped calm the nerves a little bit, I think, Jenna, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess one of the sort of the striking things visually about the film is it's set not in present day, and a lot of it I think was filmed on mini DV. What drove that decision?
Well, the short answer is we had a mini DV camera, and I again, with the reverse engineering of the film, I just wanted to use anything we had available to us to make a movie. But the more in-depth answers, I've just always loved that vintage look of just old dead formats. I think are super interesting. And also it's just always kind of irked me. Again, I love found footage, but so many times you get a found footage movie that's set in the early 90s, but it was filmed on a red camera, and then it's just kind of dumbed down in post. And I've never really liked that. I think like at least me as an audience member, I like to be trusted enough by the filmmaker to be like, yeah, okay, I'm looking at real footage right now. I don't want to have to suspend my disbelief so much to where, this iPhone footage is supposed to be VHS footage. Like, it just doesn't click for me. So really, from the start, just wanted to make like the mini DV thing, and then yeah, the period piece aspect of it too kind of came along with that. Everything just kind of fell or came together from what we had available to us and what we were feeling in terms of story. Like, it feels like just the overarching story, I would say, feels much more like a late 90s, early 2000s story arc. And so we kind of just naturally fell into that. I was watching a lot of Dawson's Creek at the time. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But actually, it definitely had something to do with it. So yeah.
I just did it's when you say Dawson's Creek, I did a rewatch during the early days of the pandemic.
Same exact thing. It's awesome. It's such a good show.
Yeah, I hated Dawson though. I just it's as much as it's.
He's so annoying. He's so annoying. He's the worst. And then Katie Holmes is way too good for him.
Yeah,
I'll
and
never realize.
But watching it like all these years later, it's like Dawson is he spends most of the seasons like gaslighting her and just being like there's you sort of watch it now and it's like he really is the villain of this piece.
You're making too much of a connection between my film and Dawson's Creek. People are going to start thinking it's actually like Dawson's Creek fanfic.
I was I was at university around the time of the mini DV, so it was sort of like quite nostalgic to hear the the whirring of the tapes going into the camera, and I guess also with that the aspect ratio works really well because obviously it's like in 4:3, and it sort of restricts the amount that the viewer can see, and I think that's. For me personally, that was where I found the sort of the horror elements of it, because you feel uneasy and it's like, although there's not very much on the screen, it's almost like you're looking closer to what's happening sort of around the edges and in the background. Was that something that you intended with that?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my favorite things, and I actually just found a name for it. I was listening to the Evolution of Horror podcast yesterday because someone mentioned it in a review of the film. I forget whose name it was, but it was an episode on folk horror and like marble hornets and all that stuff, all like the internet craze of like found footage style stuff. And I need to look up his name, Alex something, I believe. But he was talking about frame analysis horror, which is basically just like you look at the screen and eventually you see something in the background. Mikey and I just watched Lake Mungo last night. It's like one of my favorite movies. And that's like a big proponent of that. Just like you look at something long enough and then eventually you see something. And we tried to set that up throughout the film. I think it's the fans of it would call it methodically paced. The haters of it would call it slow paced. But we tried to set up like long, just like on sticks, just like not moving, like solid shots, where you're just kind of looking for a little too long, and then eventually tried to deliver on that later in the film with a couple subtle scares and stuff like that. And yes, the 4:3 aspect ratio is definitely very restricting. It's tighter, it's more claustrophobic, which plays into the location, I think. And also, I'm just looking for any excuse I have to put any of my films in 4:3. I think it's the perfect aspect ratio. I don't know if I'm ever going to do a 16:9 film.
I mean, Jenna and Michael, what was it about the characters that you connected to? I mean, I know you're friends with Aaron and obviously you want to support him, but I guess, as actors, you've got to connect to the people that you're playing.
Yeah, I think I related to Clara a lot, and just we had very similar upbringing. She went to a Catholic school. Her family and my family were very similar, of being close and going on vacations to the same spot all the time. And I think I just was intrigued by her calmness and her quiet like anxiety that she held so close to her. And I think that was such a common thing in the early 2000s with women, of just kind of being quieted. And I was really intrigued by that, and being not believed by her partner and this person that was supposed to be her advocate. And so I really appreciated the challenge of playing her and trying to be expressive, but being a character that was just so scared and anxious, and not knowing how to convince this man of her fears. And it ultimately just, ended up not going her way at all. And so I really just appreciated being able to rise to the challenge of this role.
Yeah, and for me, I think that Roger is a very different character from who I am in real life. So I think having that challenge to be such a bad person. I don't connect with Roger at all as a character, and I think that being able to play him, I wanted to basically show people or shine a light on the moments in people's lives that they don't really want to remember. I think that this film is a big study in the negative moments in someone's life. I think it's a study in the memories that you want to repress and the memories that you don't necessarily want to bring up because there's something in them that's your fault. I think that there's a big negativity to playing Roger. It was a great opportunity to do it. But I hope at some point that I'm casted in an Aaron Bartuska film and I play a good person. Like I hope that happens at some point.
I just see something in you, bro.
It was a great opportunity to play a very bad person and to tell a story about someone who made a lot of mistakes and someone you should not be like. It's a perfect case study in who you don't want to be. Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I enjoyed playing him, but I hope I play a good guy at some point.
There's this great sequence at the beginning, obviously, where Roger's, driving, through the woods to get to the cabin. I mean, how is it, driving on camera through these, twisty, windy roads at night? Because that is one of my, like, whenever we're driving down country lanes at night, my heart is always in my throat. And I think the film sort of like took me right into, I mean, my husband's a great driver, but still I'm always like, is an animal going to jump out? What's going to happen? And I think the film sort of captured that. What was it like sort of shooting that? Because I think, you've got the clock there, changing minute by minute by minute.
Yeah,
did I miss you? Did you just call that sequence great? Because that's a very controversial. That's like when a lot of people tune out. So that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
I'm so glad that translated. That's awesome. At least personally, that's the actual drive that it takes to get from the main road to the cabin. Not cut up at all. That's the exact time it takes.
We cut it down a little. It was like 4 or 5 minutes, so it takes longer to get there. But like, yeah.
That was the road I drove on to get to the cabin the first time, and it was pitch black when I did it the first time. That was the road Jenna drove on, Nick drove on, Aaron. Every member of cast and crew had to go down this 5-minute stretch of woods in the dark to get to this cabin that's in an isolated middle of the part of the forest. And
it was as horrible as it looks. It was horrible.
Just imagine like some upperclassmen asking you. This was a student film. Like imagine a couple upperclassmen like asking you to be on a film for free, and then that's the drive to set. It's like I felt very bad, but we tried to prep everyone.
I think it got everybody in the mood for the movie. I will say that. It put everybody in the mindset.
Yeah. It wasn't hard to get in the horror mindset when you drove
Absolutely
there
not.
in the dark, or just when you were hanging out in the cabin.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, Nick, you play the eerily named The Watcher, and the character, he's hidden behind a mask. With your face obscured, what challenges does that pose to you as an actor?
Especially as somebody who's never acted before. This was my first film role, other than small stuff that Aaron and I did 4 or 5 years ago. I think it posed a lot of challenges. Being able to, like, especially having my peripheral vision restricted was probably the biggest thing. Was, hitting my cues, being able to walk in and out of frame, and just getting a general sense of where things and where people were, was definitely a challenge. I think it was really cool to be able to only have my eyes at my disposal, and just so happens to work out that I did not blink for the film until Aaron tells me to. So I was very happy with how that worked out. But yeah, I don't know. It was super cool to have that restriction placed on me.
I'm a big Nosferatu guy, so I stole that from Nosferatu.
I mean, the three of you of the cast, there's a lot of sequences, where the camera is, very right up front, right up close. How daunting is that? Having the camera sort of, right up in your face.
I think for me, it was really fun to be able to play with those angles. When you're in a film, you usually are, hand back, or it's up to the director's discretion. And with this, Mikey and I got to have a lot of fun with, putting it really close to his face or intentionally bringing it back. And I felt really honored that Aaron gave us so much control of, kind of giving us the premise of the scene and saying, go with what you feel. Because most of this was just completely improv. And so I think even with the close shots, and when Mikey would bring it close to my face, it was a very genuine reaction, because most of it was just us being fun and having fun and going with what we felt in the scene.
Yeah, that's true. At least for the mini DB, I could think of very few instances where the action of the camera was choreographed. I think there's like one or two scenes where Aaron gave us direction on what to film in a mini DB scene. So a lot of it, I think, at least from my perspective, I had the ability to be behind the camera in some points, and an opportunity to have the camera turned on me in a few scenes, which I think was very intimidating, but it made for good reactions in the film down the line, which I think just is a credit to the format, and it's a credit to the direction. And I think it worked out really well.
I mean, are you guys going to get the band back together soon? Are you going to be working on anything else?
I hope so.
Aaron?
I got a couple ideas floating around. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm gonna try to make something a little quicker, a little more. I want to hook the audience, but no, yeah, I've got a couple ideas floating around. I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna. I put myself in kind of an interesting spot, and all of us, I think, where now that this is getting some publicity, but it's more like, it's got its horror roots, and it's also got it's kind of, I know people hate the term, but it's mumblecore roots, and I've got my foot in both of those. I love both of those genres so much. So I don't want to fully leave one to go into another route. So I think I might just do both. I kind of really want to direct I'm saying it here now, so now I'm going to have to hold myself accountable. So this is good. I really want to do a Christmas horror short film, because Christmas horror is my favorite subgenre of ever. It's so awesome. Taking such a fun time of the year, family time, and just ruining it. And then just another talky, just improvised, more positive. Definitely not. I think I'm in a very different place in my life than when I made this film. Even though I still like it, and I know the person who made it, I'm definitely on a more of an upswing. So I definitely still want to grapple with the death stuff and the relationship stuff, but in a more positive light. So hopefully in the next 2 years, you'll see two things from me in each route.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is an audience for, just sort of the mumblecore horror. I mean, After Midnight, that was released.
I haven't seen that yet.
But that's sort of a similar thing. It's a relationship sort of breaking down across the years, and then there's potentially a monster that visits every night around midnight, and it's this guy trying to get people to believe in it. You should definitely worth a whirl. So there is, like I say, there is an appetite there for a future going down there. going down those two routes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, because also like just like watching a lot of my idols are like from that initial like early like wave of like independent films, like DIY films, like getting into festivals. Like the Duplass brothers, Joe Swanberg, like even Greta Gerwig came from that like route. And it's just like they all kind of put their foot in horror a little. You know, Swanberg did VHS and Silver Bullets. Duplass brothers did Baghead, and then Mark Duplass did Creep, which is like awesome. Pap, we did a Creep double feature.
That was so great.
And yeah, so like I definitely was. It's interesting because growing up, I always thought like I needed to like. I almost became a little bit ashamed of my love for horror. I thought of it as like kind of like a side thing. Like I couldn't really talk about it, but like seeing that stuff and seeing like some of my big influences like straying into it, definitely just gave me the courage to like own my love for it and just like combine the two. And yeah, I think that's a very interesting roots.
And I guess as we're sort of starting to run out of time, my final question to everybody would be, with the film showing at Grimfest, there's a few other films playing. Why should they add this film to their viewing? What are they going to get from this film that they might not get from some of the other films that are on that roster?
I got to hard pitch this movie right now. I've got to bring back my marketing side. I think that this movie is very different from any movie that we've seen from Grimfest or are going to see. I think that you're going to see a micro-budget film stretched to its limits. I think that there's going to be a lot of movies at Grimfest that have had a much bigger budget than ours. And what we've been able to accomplish as a team, as a group of friends, everyone on set had some sort of camaraderie, and we were all friends after we left. I think that this is a real passion project between a bunch of people who love horror and a bunch of people who love movies and a bunch of people who love storytelling. And I think that at its core, this is what filmmaking is all about. It's so far removed from big budget movies and big production companies. I think that this is for anyone who loves horror and who loves movies and who loves supporting the little guy. I think this is a good movie for them.
Good, Mikey.
Good job, Michael. Good job, Michael.
Yeah, I was gonna say something along the same vein. I'm really hoping that the passion that each of us put into this over the however many weekends that we shot this out of our own time, because all of us do different things. Like, my day job, I'm a structural engineer. Like, and this is just a side thing for me, but something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I'm hoping, even if I'm behind a mask, I'm hoping that my passion and Mikey's passion and Jenna's and Aaron and everybody else who was on set, that shows through. And I'm hoping that people at Grimfest will be able to see that manifest itself on the screen, because we all worked our asses off for this and really had a great time doing it. And I'm hoping that even if the themes of the film may be a little bit heavy, that people at least still have a great time watching it.
And I'll also just piggyback off of that. It's been, have we said that a lot? I'll piggyback off of that.
I said it once and I'm trying to stray away from it.
Okay. Well, I just idolize you so much. I'll say it. But I think that, if you were listening to this interview and any of the words jumped out, like any of the interests jumped out to you, like, found footage, mumblecore, it's a very niche film, I would say. I think like maybe you show this to a room of 100 people, like 20 of them might like it. But if you're in that 20, you might love it. So, we've had a lot of people just like spearheading this project and showing us support, and it's really endearing. And yeah, just if you're willing, I love weird cinema. I love things that no one's seen before, influenced by things that people have seen a lot of. I think that's a very comfortable place to be, because you're pushing the limits, but you're still, there's that home base of like, at least the roots of it. You know that you're getting into something that you're at least gonna enjoy to a point. So I think if people are willing to take a chance on it, you might hate it, but you might love it. So and if you hate it, watch out for the next thing. It'll be better. And if you love it, thank you.
And
I was just gonna say, come for the weird early 2000s fashion, the weird clothes that they put me in that I picked out, the things that we put Mikey in. Come to see the deer heads that are just scattered throughout the cabin. It's very weird. The genuine reactions of just shock when we walk into the cabin and see where we're going to be living for a few weekends. It just plays through our face. Yeah, just come for a good time. It's a you know, maybe not a good time. Come for a really intense time. Yeah.
Come for an intense time and stay for the score. Honestly.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
We're being honest. Will Denola knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely
Yeah.
awesome.
But I will wish you guys the best of luck with the screening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
taking the time to
you.
interview us.